Hello, everybody. I've decided this session that we're doing to speak on the nature and function of Venus. I've been looking at Jeff Wolf Green's work, and it really touched my heart that this is how we speak to ourselves through Venus, and the understanding of this is really helping me. So we're going to go for it here. So the presentation, it's from the book that I've been reading, The Soul's Evolution Through Relationship. And it was chapter 6 of that book. If anybody has the book, I suggest that's where you can find the information that I've been reading, but also I came to my own conclusions with it as well as I read through the book. Thank you, Linda. Okay, so this is the beginning, or page 127 that I read, and I'm going to read it out here. Is, as stated before, Venus has two natures, an inner and an outer or projected nature. The inner nature of Venus correlates to how we inwardly are relating to ourselves and how we go about uniting inwardly discordant aspects of our overall nature or personality. Within this archetype, Venus correlates to the psychology of listening, how we listen to ourselves and thus how we are listening to other people. Listening infers and what we hear within ourselves and how and what we feel from other people. Listening and hearing thus correlate to how we are inwardly relating to ourselves and how we relate outwardly to other people. How we relate to and thus feel about ourselves generates an inner vibration or magnetism which attracts others who reflect or symbolize our self-relationship. Our inner voice is our world, and examples are being inwardly feeling critical or of self and inadequate. And the other awareness of shortcomings, meaning that inner voice. The inner critic will attract that behavior or style of treatment from another, if that makes sense, as I read here. Also, as we project that into the world, that is what we are often will see being reflected back to us. And this is not written in stone, but it gives us an idea of what takes place for many of us. Jeffrey Wolf Green refers to this in The Soul's Evolution Through Relationship, page 128, as outpicturing our own inner reality. I hope that makes sense to everybody there. Also, he mentions that we project outward that which is a reflection of our own reality. I see the importance of looking at our own conditioning and shadow and questioning our own truth to live out our lives aligned to our soul purpose. We learn through polarity, sickness and health, hot, cold, and so forth. The more conscious we become of our inner voice, the easier life can become. And the inner call, I will say, for me and many of us, is to satisfaction and peace, meaning that we're looking for peace and satisfaction. The knowing in our struggles that there is another way, a better way, despite the inner turmoil and struggle, that this makes digging to understanding self more than worthwhile. So it's more than worthwhile, okay? Here, this is my chart. I hope I'm not too fast for everybody as well. My Gemini. I have found through studying evolutionary astrology and the archetypes that it put me in touch with my own inner uncomfortableness and my desires. And I have also been pointed to hearing my self-talk and my inner voice. And I hear what I need. And I am also more aware of my projection and expectations of others. In exploring my polarity with Venus in Libra, I see where I need to step up and clean up. I am a Venus in Aries in my 5th house, which is traditionally Leo, and I see how this also plays out in my hearing and needs, and where I can learn via Libra the balance, the polarity to Aries. Thank you, Linda. Okay, I also see how this placement links in well with my other placements, and I see that my soul is what my soul is craving and what it needs and desires. I am also aware how extreme hardships have gleaned much gold at this point in my own life. Self-sufficiency, the move away from codependency, and the move to being aware of my inner child and her heart and her needs. As adults in consciousness, we can reshape the meaning of early narcissistic wounds and abandonments by developing a full relationship to ourselves and checking in to see how we are with others, our mirrors. Also, we have the ability to choose whether we want to nurture and bond with another, and for this to occur, there must be resonance and like minds. Communication is a wonderful tool, and learning to share, speaking about what we understand and learn with our loved ones is imperative in order to improve our bonds where possible. We also have the ability to leave behind that which is not working for us and brings us pain, and to look at what we are holding on to if it does not work for us. Relationships are there for our soul growth, and I see the ultimate relationship is with ourselves. We need to know that, as with all planets and the totality of our charts, there is a lot more going on than just these aspects and houses. And I add, we are not to use astrology to judge and berate ourselves, because I find myself doing that sometimes. That's why I mention this. It is a tool for self-improvement and acceptance of our uniqueness and individuality. We have the gift of being able to objectify, and we are a continual work in progress. And any work we do toward banishing our inner critic is work worthwhile, as we would not critic a child who is learning to walk. We have not done this life before, and we are figuring it out to the end, and understanding our chart will speed this up and does speed it up. Thank you, Linda. Okay, we've got Venus in Aries here. This is me. I don't know if anybody else out there has got Venus in Aries, but here we go. Here we have a pattern of looking at who we are through relationship from birth. There will be narcissistic tendencies, and this is not all negative. We have healthy narcissism and unhealthy narcissism. All babies are about self, fully unknowingly, and it is a natural disposition. Individuation and independence both contains a level of narcissism. Venus in Aries feel special and are orientated towards self. They require independence and naturally have feelings of a special destiny. Other is not something they can fully commit to, and they will therefore spend some of their time in isolation. They can display intense passion and be involved with another, and this can appear as being committed. They go through cycles of intensity with another and then withdrawal. When they feel overloaded or lose independence or too much information, they take steps back. And they can feel stifled and implicated if they have too much time with another. The pulling back may confuse others, but it is a natural disposition of those who have Venus in Aries. If a partner or a friend does not understand this cycle, then they may feel upset and uncomfortable with the actions of the Venus in Aries person and project anger onto them. This can also cause others to feel insecure and uncertain around them. They need to be treated special, and they do naturally return this interaction with loved ones. Their energy and passion rubs off on others and can feel exciting, and they like others who are independent and passionate and also are self-inclined. Venus in Aries are not overly interested in comfort and routine can bore them, and they can lead to stalemate. Too much routine can cause them to fear loss of self and can create a self-confidence issue. There can be anger that is not aligned with the reality of a given circumstance. Venus in Aries is instinctual in nature and fiery in reactions, creating ways in which others must serve them and meet their needs. Others will mirror back to them their own behavior. The beauty in all interactions is that we learn through each other, and we gain without knowing why, and they can be seen as sexual objects due to emitting strong pheromones. I don't know if I've said that correctly. Anyway, and they can attract people who are self-centered. An example of a few women with Venus in Aries are Audrey Hepburn, Elizabeth Taylor, and Marilyn Monroe. And I say this because of the relationships they have with men, so to speak. They are also looking to find out who they are from the birth, and are also attracted to others with a strong sexual nature. Their sexual nature can be used to secure attention, and they can also use sexual withdrawal at regular intervals to maintain their sense of individuation. While they like to be alone, which helps them self-actualize, they actually need others. Their fear is enmeshment, as the desire is to fulfill their own destiny. So how to cure this or help this is we can balance this with the polarity of Libra to learn balance, equality, playing fairly, and learning about justice. Okay, thank you. Venus in Aries. Next slide. Venus in Taurus. Here we have a pattern of needing lasting bonds, and this will require a deep internalization of who and what they are. They are interested in their needs, their own needs, and just are looking for meaning in life, reliance upon self and meeting one's own needs to sustain through resources, and they are resilient. Their values will be based and made through what life means to them. Their values are unique to them and defined by them and not others. And they do not feel comfortable with those who are different, who have different value systems. There is a resistance to others whose values are not similar, and they are fixed in their values. This can cause resistance to others, and the way they see things is hard to budge. Due to resistance to others' values and other value systems and beliefs, they grow steadily but slowly. This is not a negative thing. It is a style and is a necessary way of being in the world, and also a need in this world. They can find it difficult to let go of things, and they can be possessive because of the fear of loss. When others shares values, they can exude warmth. They can be jealous as a result, and they can attract others who are possessive. This is similar to their rigidness in beliefs and values. They may attract others also that may limit their development. Here again, we see the mirror effect. Projecting our values onto another can make others angry and others feel judged. They are here to learn to empower themselves. They can also attract people who will help them to understand and experience their own empowerment, or about self-empowerment. This can be through the body and sexual nature, to avoid sluggishness in life, and also to help them find their own empowerment and pleasure. We can see learning self-empowerment has a polarity. It can come through with calm and ease, or it can be also experienced through trauma. They can learn to use their body to experience transformation by being grounded. When we have focused on our needs and desires and they are aligned with purpose, their purpose is then supported. And we can balance this polarity of with the polarity of Scorpio, and then get to see the bigger picture, which can help them expand their view. This also involves learning to listen to others, and also teaches them to objectify, and this opens the doors to a new way of seeing. This can also help them to see and hear others and not be so fixed and narrow in their thinking, which leads to a richer way of being in the world. Thank you, Linda. Okay, here, Gemini, we have a pattern of inner relatedness, and all that is to do with self-knowledge. Inner relatedness, running an inner constant dialogue, a constant stream of inner questions, including who am I? This is not only inner, this is also projected outwardly. Venus and Gemini learn through reactions. Their thoughts and then the possibilities lead to actions, and these lead to experiences. And in the actions and experiences lead to knowledge, and then self-awareness, a non-stop process. Gemini is mutable and therefore air, which is unrestricted and leads to expansion and growth. There are times when information overload leads to a pulling back and going inward. This is needed in order to process all of the information and to see where it fits into self and the world. They are looking to what something might mean and what they will discover. A curiosity which leads them to experience. They will also question in the digesting, the looking to see. Oh, lost the screen there, Linda. Lost the, I've got some blocks on the screen. I don't know if you can see that.
Is it okay now?
It's fine now, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. This is indeed in order to process information and is to see where it fits into the world. They are looking for what something might mean and what they will discover, a curiosity which leads to experience. There will be questions in the digesting, the looking to see something in truth, how it applies, and does this work, and how. Withdrawing helps to assimilate the meaning, and withdrawal can be due to exhaustion and overwhelm. They are open and friendly. They are accepting to the diversity of life and all in it. They are good at asking questions that can cause expansion, and they bring awareness to things, what works and why, and what does not work. When they withdraw, they can be reactive to others and not allow others to express themselves fully. When this happens, they are not heard either. They learn to understand others through the mind and intellect. Due to the thinking, there can be a lack of direction, and this can be solved through looking at their intention, the why they want to know something or study something. Thank you, Linda. The knowing why can give guidance. Knowing one's intention can help guide them from being a misguided missile. The why something needs to be understood. The intent behind the question. Where Venus in Gemini needs to get to a place of not need. So Gemini needs to get to a place of not seeking outside for the answers and to come to an inner knowing, to take their consciousness from left brain to right brain, to learn to come from a place of being in response to events rather than in reaction to events, a choosing to respond rather than to react brings us peace and satisfaction. In doing this, they will hear others and self more deeply rather than superficially, and in turn, that changes the questions they ask, which become more meaningful. This leads away from being fragmented and all over the place, and this allows them then to be more in focus of what they need and want, and to complete things that they wish to complete. So here we balance this with Sagittarius. We balance this with the polarity and learn to hear deeply and to see the knowledge is within, to continue expansion through conscious intention and to develop open-mindedness. Thanks, Linda. Okay, we've got Venus in Cancer here. Okay, so here we have a pattern and a need of relationship that helps develop and heal the inner world of feelings of insecurity that are related to the inner whirling emotional states. The feelings are not fixed and they come and go in the waxing and waning of the moon. They can be there can be a feeling of no control and then feeling stable. They are learning to relate to themselves as emotional beings. Their image of self changes too, and they are looking to feel safe and secure and for stability. There is a wish to be taken care of, to receive nurture by those they love. Jeff Wolf Green mentions in his book, Pluto 2, Volume 2, that there is a skip step here at around age 20 months old, which can cause the baby to internalize a parent that is not physically nearby or present, and yet the baby still feels safe and secure. I personally can see the implication of how that may play out as an adult, that not feeling secure, but not knowing why. This means security and feelings towards it have been compromised and unreality. The Venus in Cancer experiences unpredictable emotions, and there can be feelings that any amount of love is never enough for them. This then leads to feelings of insecurity and not feeling safe with others. This means emotional expectations are projected onto another, and they may feel other should meet their needs and know what they need without it being verbalized. Okay, Linda, thank you. These reactions and the way they are can pull others into their emotional states. If there is displaced anger, then this can be mirrored back to them. I think this is the beauty in understanding Venus. We get to see who we are and what we are projecting, which then shows us what we need to work on. They can also hear and feel others' emotional states if this is not being shown or verbalized to them. They have a skill of helping others express their emotions because of their warmth and nurturing and feeling disposition. What is happening here is their own needs are being put out there, and they can do this without words. They need relationships that are safe and lasting commitments, and their need they need gentleness and nurturing relationships. And we can balance this one with the polarity of Capricorn and look to harness the emotional projections and minimize them. The learning to be responsible for their own inner child and look at why they feel what they feel. They can also learn to look and release emotional vulnerability and get to a place of being clear and forward in what is going on inside of themselves, so to speak. Thank you. Venus in Leo. Here we have a pattern in need for ultimate self-actualization. The sun shines and sustains life on earth, on this earth. Venus in Leo is what creativity is, the being able to sustain, who we are through deeds and feeling our specialness and worth. The feeling of being at the center of the universe, to explore self fully and to bring forward the fruits for all to see and love. Venus in Leo not only needs, but wants to know how special others think they are. They need to hear it and see that others love what they are doing and who they are. If Venus in Leo does not get feedback, this can make them feel worthless and unworthy. And Venus in Leo projects outwardly to others what they need naturally. And this means it is not superficial, and it is indeed their inner voice, the way they hear themselves. They can struggle with others who they perceive to be in competition with them, particularly if the other is doing the same line of work they are doing, and so forth. The Venus in Leo person is like a blank slate or the Sahara Desert waiting to be decorated and adorned with life and beauty, and they feel all is possible. When they feel limited, then comes frustration, the not being able to do what one wants. This is useful though, because it gets them to tone down their ego and ideas of grandiosity. Thank you. If they feel they are being blocked, they can behave like a child, a little monster wanting its way. They are concerned with the future, positive in feelings, and can focus on what they are wanting to accomplish. They like to play in love and keep people on their toes and keep things fresh. And they will treat the other with love when returned. They like being with those who emit a similar vibration, and if taken for granted in any way, they can withdraw and become disdainful and be mean. They want love and attention and to be recognized. They can be creative to extract love out of others to get the attention they want, and they can manifest through their body and use sexuality and the act of being sensual to achieve what they desire. These people desire one partner, but do like to be playful and will flirt with others as a part of their makeup. They are about joy, being spontaneous, and are here to celebrate who they are, and this is their path to growth. We can balance this polarity with the Aquarius to objectify self and to learn to be equal to everyone else, to learn to understand the bigger picture and to include others, and to be comfortable with not needing to hear how amazing they are, and just know at that and contribute to the whole. Okay, thank you. There you go. Venus in Virgo. Here we have a pattern that is inward and self-analytical and self-critical. This is about personal self-improvement. Its focus is on what is wrong and to where we need to adjust ourselves. This not feeling right and self-worth of not feeling good enough. It shows guilt and the belief that we need to atone. When we believe we need to improve believe we need to improve out of guilt, it becomes judgment. The Venus in Virgo can have beliefs and can be rigid about what is correct and what is right and wrong. It is to do with being moral, and it is religious in nature. This gives the idea that we are less than perfect and that only God is perfect. This is how Venus in Virgo relates to themselves inward and outward. And this can feel lonely and creates an emptiness and can be experienced. This is where we may feel small and not worthy. We feel others are better, and we may feel we are nothing in comparison. These thoughts of not being good enough humiliate us, and we believe we will never be what we should be. These beliefs apply to others. They then are mirrored back to us. This is masochism and crucifixion of self. The inner and outer realities then match up. The good news is analysis can lead to self-knowledge. It is awareness of what is going on that I see is needed here. As with all the archetypes, whatever our inner voice is doing then gets mirrored back to us. When we do not feel deserving, we do not get our needs met, and we do not meet our own needs. This also leads to guilt and shame and judgment. Thank you. If we do not understand this dynamic, we will disassociate and avoid confronting the depths of loneliness in us. Being overly busy, superficial thinking, and superficial nonsense. This leads to one crisis after another, and each crisis can keep us in a loop, and this means more avoidance of what we need to address. The avoidance can be through food, alcohol, or other sexual addictions to get out of their heads and experience the body. There is also inner doubt. Too many conflicting thoughts can lead us to staying stuck in a loop, going nowhere, and this deepens the thoughts, I am not good enough. The way around this is to take one step at a time. Here is the quality of being a natural giver before taking care of oneself, and giving great advice but not taking one's own advice, feeling, believing they do not deserve help but hurt. All this attracts is others who invalidate and criticize them. We can balance this one with the polarity of Pisces to help understand the depth of our inner aloneness, aligning with the spiritual practice to establish a connection with our higher power or a God. This can help dissolve aloneness, to embrace compassion and gentleness and love, to see life as evolving instead of being fixed and perfect, and changing our inner standards dissolves inner guilt and leads to self-acceptance of self, which leads to positive feelings and new self-talk. Thank you, Linda. Okay, Venus in Libra. Here we have a pattern and a need in understanding who we are through all relationships. They embrace the diversity of life, and we find out who we are by knowing who we are not. Libra is known for balance, but in fact, Libra is about learning balance. If the Venus in Libra experiences too much interaction, then they need to withdraw to keep the balance. There can be extremes here. Time spent immersed in others creates a loss of self, and then being alone helps to create a sense of who they are. They may only value self to the degree that others will value them. Others give them meaning. Venus in Libra supports others and values them even when others' reality is not their own. Supporting others' realities in extremes can take us away from our own reality and sense of self. There is an ability to make many things mean many things to different people, and like a chameleon with others, changing to suit the scenery. They can relate well to differences in values and beliefs and lifestyles. All this is relative, and this means all interactions can be related to which allows others to be themselves as they are. As they are aware of so many possibilities and ways of being in the world, it gives them the ability to imagine freely, and this can be applied to how others feel and live, which supports others. They also look to ask themselves in comparison, who am I? In their interactions, they are fair and they compromise, or they are fair about balance and justice and equality. They are able to and are good at compromise and good at negotiating with others. They believe in treating others as they expect to be treated and are givers to others. They need to be needed by others, and giving creates the ability for others to return and acknowledge them. And they need to have meaning and give others meaning. Thank you. They need to learn to ask for what they need and to be specific about it and not to overlook their needs. Not acknowledging their own needs causes imbalances in relationships. Needs may have been overlooked in childhood, and this undermines children and affects their identity and the child's unique authority. If we only have needs met when we conform, this creates an imbalance and fear of asking. Others may see Venus in Libra as an extension of themselves and overlook their individuality. The need to be accepted or loved can also cause them to mirror others sexually, again denying their own values and needs, and this can eventually cause anger to the Venus in Libra. Not all anger is bad. It can be a positive emotion to get what we need when we're being denied and not heard. And this puts us in a position to verbalize, these are my needs. Because of the mirror effect, partners may be attracted who also withhold. This is about learning balance. It's about the balance, the male-female aspects of the self with regard to needs. It's important to develop how we relate to others and self and become worldly, wise, intimate, respectful, concerned and aware, and relate with warmth. And we balance this one with the polarity of Aries, to hear oneself and what our inner needs are, to be assertive and to express and communicate our own inner self and inner reality. The knowing when we are comfortable, being socially active when we need space, to hear our own yes and no, and to hear it, which will create balance. So we need to listen to ourselves with Libra as well. Thank you. Here we have Venus in Scorpio. So here we have a pattern and a need inwardly relating to their own soul and the deeper aspects of self through examining oneself. The depths of psychology, the understanding who am I, the ability to examine one's own nature, fears, and what they desire and need. This helps them to decipher who they are and then to relate to others. Each examination causes one to expand and then to contract. Venus in Scorpio has an inner depth with regard to self-knowledge, and this expands outwardly in understanding the depths of others. Any and all situations are evaluated at depth, their own inner world, and then in relationship to others. The main question is why? This why leads to self-knowledge about self and leads to understanding the depth of others, who they interact with. Jeff Worth-Green describes this state as having an eye of an eagle and explains an eagle's eye has the ability to see the larger picture and then telescopically zooming in on their point of focus. Inwardly, they are monitoring everything, and the same applies to their surroundings and others. The why leads to understanding, but can feel threatening to others. Scorpios has experienced lives of abandonment, loss, and betrayal. Venus in Scorpio can cause fears to manifest, and they zoom in to make sure all is safe and that they are protective, and this includes others that they care for. They do not wish to experience dependence on others in order to protect themselves. This can create circumstances that create situations where others do abandon and betray them. Thank you, Linda. And this can happen due to them becoming fixed. And if too fixed, growth cannot occur. Self-enforced or other removals also create growth. So, you know, when things get removed from us, we do grow. They may react with anger or rage or show a victim mentality. If we become fixed or too overly identified, it inhibits our growth, and then the removal of whatever is creating stalemate will be removed. They need others who assist them in understanding their own depths and needs and wishes and desires. They will also test others to see how real another is. They require proof and loyalty in order to let another in and open up to who they really are. If another is dependent on them, it can create a sense of safety, and this can be a form of manipulation, even if it's unconscious. Knowledge of self and knowing of self ultimately leads to healthy changes in time. To be vulnerable with another is the ultimate here, and this allows for healing to occur. This can lead to trust and inner honesty about one's own motivation, allowing one to grow and feel safe. We balance this with the polarity of Taurus, to look at our wounds and to see where we can heal ourselves and become self-sufficient. When we become self-sufficient and can love who we are, then that's how we're going to speak to ourselves and in a new way, which leads to others relating to us in a healthier and more loving ways. Security is inner, and knowing this leads to self-empowerment and inner security. Thank you. Okay, Venus in Sagittarius. Here we have a pattern and a need for discovery and to actualize their own truth, meaning and purpose. This is all to do with personal truth, their own guiding truth and thinking and reasoning, looking for their own center and meaning and to know their purpose. Venus and Sagittarius are committed to their own growth and evolution. Inwardly, they are restless, looking for answers and confirmation to liberate themselves. They will go after any experience they deem fit for the purpose of their expansion of inner truth. There is a need for emancipation, and they will not settle with being bound nor accept restriction. They know deep in their being that they are connected to something larger than self, and they are aware there is a composer to all that exists, and that there must be innate laws and theories not yet known. They need to understand the bigger picture and are searching for it via their own personal truth and value systems. They look to that which resonates with them and their inner truth, and it shows in how they relate to others. They will help them distinguish who they will relate to. They need others who give room and personal freedom, and for them to discover who they are. They think in images and crave knowledge. They have a natural instinct and wisdom and do not wish to be boxed in. Positive and passionate and committed, and they look for solutions to problems. There is also humor here. Bringing in lightheartedness leads to healing. Okay. Fun and loving and wholehearted and truthful. The projection of being truthful is their own desire for truth. And the problem here can be the inability to be exact. And this can be maddening for others. To overgeneralize can make others feel they are not being heard or their truths are not of value. There can be a tendency to make mountains out of molehills and add to a story. They can feel stifled by routines, and they need others who can reflect back to them their own inner truths. They also need travel and stimulation, and they have the choice of doing this alone or with a partner. This need is to develop their own purpose in life. So again, we have the balance with the polarity of Gemini. They are needing to learn all truth is relative to situations and circumstances, and to tone down the needing to convert others and allow others to have their own views. And in this way, we learn something new too, to see the other side to things. This helps them to widen their scope of their world. Thank you, Linda. Okay, Venus in Capricorn. Here we have a pattern for caution and control. This applies to inner and the way in which they relate to others. Here, deep feeling and understanding of inner needs takes time to surface. They need time to see what is correct for them. It takes time for them to connect with what they feel and how they will express it. This is due to being wrongly judged and rejected in the past. The rejections may have been from partners or carers. Capricorn is ruled by Saturn and relates to time and space and how we arrange ourselves in the world based on reality. Interactions with others covers groups, customs and regulations and more. When inner beliefs are not met based on one believes to be correct, when inner beliefs are not met based on one's beliefs to be the correct way to guilt can be experienced, if that makes sense there. Sorry about that one. Capricorn reflects in order to know that in what is correct and takes time. In reflection, we become aware of what is correct for us and what is not. Also, the reflecting can put us on the right path and cannot be rushed nor forced. There can be a seriousness here, and this can feel futile and can create feelings of pessimism. When a child is expected to perform to a parent's wishes and emotional feelings are rejected, this creates feelings of lack. This can mean feelings are squashed and ignored, and life is lived in a very serious manner, and it leaves no room for spontaneity. Thank you. The early conditioning can play out in adulthood as apprehension, timidity, withdrawn, and hesitancy. The early conditioned traits can then attract people who are manipulative and want to control the Venus fire in Capricorn via being overly authoritarian and judgmental. They may fear authority even when the authority is safe and not abusive. Here there is grief and sadness, and they need caring people, and by people caring for their needs, they will attract that in others. So caring for their own, they're going to attract that too. They need to release guilt and shame and learn to love their inner child. They need to acknowledge, they need to be acknowledged and held. They can work on forming relationships that have integrity, commitment, and maturity. And we balance this one with the polarity of Cancer, with deep inner child work to release the inner critic and banish it, and it will come to a new self-image. In order to heal this, the shadow work needs to take place in a fearless way, to get to a place of knowing that one is safe now and has nothing to fear, and that one is lovable, and that they need do nothing to receive what is a given birthright, which is love. Thank you, Linda. Okay, Aquarius. Here we have a pattern of being rebellious and rebelling, and of freeing ourselves from the reality and value systems and relationships. The how we should be as defined by society as a whole. They can feel alienated and not able to deal with that, with what one considers to be normal. They can feel different and crave individuality. They go through a process of eliminating that which appears restrictive to them. In knowing that, in knowing what and who we are, we find out who we are and what we can become. This is about breaking free from beliefs, values, conditioning, parents, and breaking up with conformity. This plays out in all areas of life regarding the ideas of relationships and sex and same sex and sexuality, the way one dresses and presents themselves to the world. So we can look at the generational shifts, the 60s, the 70s and the 80s, and the free love, the mods and rockers, and I think that was the 80s and the rest. This is, or the 70s and 80s, this is a need of mankind to break tradition and to help us evolve. If we had no rebellion, we would not become individuated and things would remain the same. This need builds new groups and structures, and we can see this via social media, the different groups and beliefs. Absolute rebellion is rare, and this rebellion, we can see that even in rebelling, even that when we're rebelling, we still turn to a group at times that of like-minded people. We can see how rebellion has served useful purposes for us and how it ripples and gives freedom. If we look at the rebellion of Rosa Parks, for instance, not standing up as she was requested to do by society on the bus in the history at that time. Some rebellion gets turned on its head, like the drugs in the 60s, and now a return to health and well-being, looking at after one's health, for instance. Thank you, Linda. People now rebelling against certain foods. Also, there are many examples, and also there can be superiority within rebellion. At some point, even in rebellion of joining new groups or a belief system, people can then want to overthrow that idea. I have seen this with the idea of the law of attraction, and as my example, the movie The Secret, and how many of us indulged in that and now rebel against the idea of the law of attraction. The standing apart from other, at the same time needing others like us, and then having to get to a point of coming back to self. Rebellion can be short-lived, but does serve a purpose for humanity. Here we are looking at the supporting of individuality and the wanting of personal freedom. We can balance this with the polarity of Leo and detach from all groups to focus on self. Groups, even those that rebel, can create pressure to conform. So embracing Leo, we can learn to objectify self and learn to shine in our own right and create a life and values that are good for us without the need of rebellious acts, and in a balance of knowing who we are and our own magnificence. That's in in Aquarius. There you go. Right, last one here, Venus in Pisces. Here we have a pattern to want to create and know the ultimate meaning of life. There may have been disillusionment and meaninglessness. What plays out in the mind that sees nothing as being real and reality is skewed. They may not know who they are or who they are meant to be, a loss of self-identity. There can be feelings of guilt and denial. This can play out in the unconscious and can be acted out. An example, one feels guilt, then acts out guilt, then guilt becomes the reality. This can create negative feelings as one can feel force or like a fake and not know why. So this would be like being in a play and playing a part. There can also be a victim consciousness here that can be played out in one's life. The idea one is weak and powerlessness creates a self-fulfilling prophecy. Here there can be behaviors where no efforts are made and a lack of motivation to excel and get real. Not taking personal responsibility can attract others who have none. And these relationships can be masochistic and involve sadomasochism. If we allow another to take care of us, we can be at their beck and call and have no directed life of our own. There can be a feeling of being punished and self-punishment. We can see how our inner world and talk attracts. If we feel guilty, then we can believe we deserve punishment and attract that. There can be feelings of anger and the feeling of having sinned just for being alive. These beliefs are quite patriarchal and come through religious dogma of not being good enough and damaged goods and wicked and sinful. It must be noted that beliefs can be unconscious until we gain self-knowledge and objectify, we keep playing the same roles. Also, the idea of God's will can be a form of punishment, leading to no responsibility for self. Not having a set of our own values and healthy beliefs can also lead to develop deep loneliness and feelings of separation, and the feelings we have no say have to contend, and that we have to contend with our lot. How we relate to self is projected back to us. We can integrate a new way of being that allows us being sexual and spiritual and to have a structure that works for us in real time. So this we balance out with Virgo. We do this and we can look at our own life and objectify and begin to form structures that work, and to be discerning, to look at reality and get grounded and look at one's responsibilities to self and others and have a plan, and to get to understand one's own mind. When we see what is needed and incorporate what works, we know who we are on this earthly plane. There you go. Venus in Pisces. Okay, Venus builds, this is a bit of my own thinking here. Venus builds bridges, inner and outer. We have needs and desires, inner and outer. There is beauty in bonding with others and self, and there is also hardship in communication with self and each other at times. Love and beauty resides within us. To know ourselves is to know others, and through each other we meet our needs, and in meeting our needs, we are more readily available to meet the needs of those we love and care for. When we master inner grace and kindness, we can build beautiful bonds. Through proper, honest communication, we can create beauty. Beauty is not always obvious. It can be in small gestures that we fail to notice. When we are not conscious of our inner voice, we can be manipulative and untruthful to self and in relationship. We mainly start out showing our best, and then we nitpick and find fault in relationships. When we learn to love ourselves and know ourselves, we then attract and receive as an adult much of what we need from others, and it starts with self in our adult form. Think about maybe how we don't love ourselves, the not loving ourselves, and then expecting that love to come from another. Starting with self and our own chart, and through understanding our natural disposition and then the polarity of that sign, where we have Venus, our lives can then transform. Inner treatment and inner love and a meeting of our own needs. Your inner child and heart need you as much as you need another. The polarity of our natal Venus, along with the aspects, can open gateways and doors to a fulfilling life. Okay. This paragraph below expresses fully to me how we can resolve much of our own suffering and turmoil, and how we can meet our own needs. Clearly, we do this through our lives, and it is in awareness and knowing self that we ultimately that brings us to reality that works for us instead of against us. So Jeff Wolf-Green says here, embracing the polarity point of the natal sign that Venus is in will automatically evolve or change these pre-existing patterns. In other words, the polarity point of Venus is the causal factor in changing the patterns shown in our planetary aspects. There you go. Page 129. And that's it. How did I do?
Excellent. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Penelope. That was great.
That's great.
Now, we have about 10 minutes. Do we have any questions from our audience?
This is Wendy. I'll just say that that was really wonderful to hear all the different signs and basically houses and have it all together in one place, you know, because I can think of myself or people in my life. I know their charts, and it's just that was very nice. Thank you.
I will say, Wendy, what I found when I as I sort of went through that, and you know, I extracted as I went along, and my own feelings. I began to see that how that played out with I've got Pluto in 9 on my MC and in Virgo, so I could see the Virgo archetype, how I'm playing that out, you know, that victim mentality that I'm wrong and not good enough. So it really pleased me how that the archetypes are seen clearly within this Venus and how Venus plays out for us. Thank you.
Yeah, I have Venus in Virgo also. So
yeah. Brilliant. Okay, anyone else? There's something I'd like to say actually, which I went a bit further with mine. My Venus is in my Venus is in Aries, but it's in the 5th house of Leo. So it seems I've got a double hit of self-interest in this lifetime. And I'm quite a loner, which is, it was really beautiful to see how I'm doing this life thing and what I need to do to sort of balance it out with the Libra and play fairly and sort of not shut people out, which I've got a tendency to, you know, do in my personal life. Not so much on social media, but in my own sort of interactions day to day, which is fascinating. Very healing to realize what I need to do for myself. There you go.
Okay, any final questions or comments?
Hi, Penelope. I just wanted to second what Wendy had said. I found it just very, very useful looking at it also with the corresponding, you know, archetype like Mars for the 1st house and so on. You really illuminated something for me with my Venus and Aquarius in the 6th. Brilliant. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you, T. Thank you. And I would say with everybody, I've got a Gemini Sun and Gemini Moon out there. So my quickness and fastness, I hope I wasn't too fast for everybody, but it is part of my nature to do things really quickly.
Oh, you read that really well. And I think we all received added insights into our Venus today, because even if we know a lot of astrology, there's always more to learn and be reminded and see things in a new way.
Yes, thank you, Linda. Thank you.
So, Penelope, thank you so much. We're looking forward to seeing you next time.
Okay, great. And I look forward to yours. Okay.
Yes, can't wait. Thank you. Would you all please thank Penelope Ryder?
Penelope. Thank you, Penelope.
Thank you, Penelope. Great.
Thank you. Thank you for being with me. Thank you.